What's up, Texans fans? It's your man, Chess White, again, born and raised in H-Town, and today we're going to be talking about the Texans and the Rams Week 1. 26 days from now, we're going to be kicking off the 2025 season. I'm not talking about the preseason. I don't care about the Panthers game. I don't care about Week 3 where we're playing backups. I want to talk about this Rams 53-man roster against the Texans roster. Week 1, how is this Texans team going to start the season with an extremely difficult challenge of going on the road to go and play Matt Stafford, Sean McVay, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Jared Verse, all these super talented players that they've got over there in LA. They've done a really good job of drafting players in the mid and late rounds, and it's going to be interesting. I'm excited for it. I want to break down the matchups inside the game. I want to talk about Derek Stingley Jr. guarding Devontae Adams. I want to talk about if the Texans O-line can block Jared Verse, Kobe Turner, Byron Young, some of these beasts that are on the Rams D-line. How is this Nick Caley offense going to look? There's so many overlaps in this game between Nick Caley going to go play against his former team and the implementation of this new offense for the Texans. More of a power run game, less of a Kyle Shanahan, Gary Kubiak system that we've seen for years in Houston. So I'm really excited about this game. I'm really looking forward to seeing if the Texans are rusty, seeing if they have a lot of penalties, how is their execution going to be, and how is the environment going to be in that stadium. So the Rams were 5-4 last season at home. And if I was going to pick a game for us to start the season with, it would definitely not be going on the road to play the Rams. I don't really care about what their home record was last season. You just have to look at key players at key positions. And they have extremely talented players. Their coaching staff is very solid. And it doesn't matter so much if their home stadium is going to be as loud as going to Seattle or something like that, because it still is harder to start out the season on the road. And this is going to be an interesting environment for the Texans to go into. So when I look at the Rams defense, the first thing that I think about is that their defensive line, if they're healthy, they're going to give our offensive line problems. Braden Fisk, Poona Ford, Kobe Turner, Byron Young, and of course, Jared Verse. We don't have Tunsil. We don't have someone who can just lock Jared Verse down all game. And it's going to be interesting to see if we're throwing chip blocks, if we're using a quick passing game. And it's going to be interesting to see if we start out running the football into a wall with their defensive line. One of the things that Slowick could not do is make the right adjustments mid-game. So I want to see if Nick Caley has an intimate understanding of this defense, knows who the weak links on the defense are, what coverages they run, and Nick Caley's information could be very important in the scope of this game. This is a team that I'm not genuinely that familiar with because we play in the AFC South, and the Rams are over there in the NFC West. The West is one of my favorite divisions in the NFL to watch because there seems to be always fun, entertaining games between the Seahawks, the Niners, the Cardinals, and the Rams. But how the Texans match up against the Rams is, man, it's going to be hard to block that defensive line. And CJ Stroud might have to put the team on his back on this game. I don't anticipate us being able to just run over the Rams. And I'm not sure exactly how good their linebacking group is, but they brought over Nate Landman from the Falcons, and he's a solid player. So I'll be really interested to see what types of plays work and what types of plays is Nick Caley going to call. Because on the one hand, people might say, well, in the preseason, you're going to get a good indication of how the offense is, what it looks like, what kind of plays he's going to run. But I really think that NFL fans need to look at the preseason the right way. Coordinators are not going to use their best plays. They're not going to tip their hand. They're not going to run ultra exotic plays and give away their tendencies early. In one way, this really is the Nick Caley game. It's the start of the Nick Caley era. And there's no better team for him to go up against than the Rams. Now, D'Amico and Matt Burke are very good at calling defenses, and their input in the game is just as important. The Texans are going to have to play balanced on both sides of the ball and minimize mistakes and execute at a very high level to beat this team, because they have players on both sides of the ball that will change the game on any given play. We saw Jared Verse pick up a fumble and run it back for a touchdown in the playoffs. Puka Nacua had the best rookie season of any wide receiver ever. Devontae Adams is on his way towards a Hall of Fame career. We saw him in the Jets uniform burn Jalen Petrie and the Texans defense because him and Rodgers had the understanding of exactly what coverage they were going to be in and what route to run against that. So Matt Stafford can put the ball on a dime, and the Rams' running game is not a joke either. This Kyron Williams kid, to me, was a very unexpected player to become a star. Shout out to him for getting his new contract. He's on the smaller side, but the dude runs physical. So it's really going to be a matter of, how does this chess match play out? Are these teams evenly matched? And no one can really predict the game. That's why we're fans. That's why we watch the game. I can give you my prediction and say, yeah, I think the Texans are going to win. But the truth is a game like this can come down to a single play, a single drive at the end of the game. These players are so talented that regardless of what coverage the defense is running, when you have Matt Stafford and CJ Stroud and the weapons that they have on offense, they're going to be able to manipulate the coverages, get guys open, and drop passes in the bucket to open receivers. And this game could easily be a shootout. But we also don't know. On the flip side of that, in week one, both teams can be rusty. Could be a defensive game. Las Vegas has the spread of this game as the Rams being a 2.5-point favorite. What does that tell you about the game? It means that Vegas thinks that it's essentially a very close matchup. The Rams are not favored by a ton, even being at home, and that the game comes down to essentially a field goal, which is what a lot of games in the NFL come down to. And the Rams, I think, should be favored in this game because they're playing at home with a season opener with a very talented roster and a great offensive coach leading the way for them to execute at a high level. If they put up enough points on the board, it doesn't really matter because the Texans will be chasing them the whole game. And they'll have to abandon the run and just start throwing the ball all over the field. And that's exactly what you don't want to happen against the Rams, because then they're using their greatest asset of their defensive line to just rush to the passer all game. And you don't want CJ Stroud to be throwing 50, 60 passes in the game unless it's some type of game plan where he's using a quick passing game to substitute for a running game, which may not be the smartest thing to try to do against this Rams team, is to just try to run the ball on them because they might be all over that. And Nick Caley wants to run the ball, but you have to be smart in this game. And I think the smartest game plan is to put the ball in CJ's hand early, let him find these incredible weapons that he has, let him buy time and make plays, pass to get the lead, and run to keep the lead. This is a philosophy that a lot of people believe in, and it works for a lot of different teams. Now, I really believe that this game comes down to two crucial matchups. The Texans wide receivers against those Rams DBs, and the Texans defensive ends against Matt Stafford in the pocket. The reason why I think that these two matchups are so important is because depth on any team is important. The Texans wide receivers have the best depth that they've probably ever had. We've got Nico, we've got the young kids, Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, but we've also got Christian Kirk, John Mechie, and Xavier Hutchinson, don't forget him, creating a very talented core of players. Is our third guy better than their third DB? Is our fourth guy better than their fourth DB? I think that that is going to be a key to the game. I think that Nico Collins is the best wide receiver in this game. That's with complete respect to Devontae and Puka. Nico is should be the focal point of the offense for this particular week. I do remember Kaylee saying at one point that if it requires him to call 40 run plays in a given week to win the game, he will call 40 run plays. If it requires him to call 50 pass plays a given week to defeat a certain team, he'll call 50 pass plays. I think that the Texans need to throw the ball early and establish that Nico is going to be better than Ahkello Witherspoon, who's their number one corner. And then I think that the matchup with the Texans' defensive ends is going to be so important because Matt Stafford is not the most mobile quarterback in the NFL. If you have Will Anderson coming free off the edge or Danielle Hunter, and they have the opportunity to create a strip sack and force a fumble, one of those plays alone can change this game. Matt Stafford is very good at reading the defense, getting the ball out quickly. He's played QB at an extremely high level for many years. But it doesn't matter how good of a QB you are. If you are getting hit all game, then you're going to have a hard day at the office. And the Texans' defensive tackles will also need to collapse the pocket because Stafford, just like any great QB, will be able to climb the pocket and escape from pressure from the defensive ends and still be able to throw dimes unless we get push from those defensive tackles. So I think that the Texans have the advantage in both of those areas because we're not playing against an ultra-mobile quarterback and we're not playing against a team with an ultra-elite secondary. Even when they had Jalen Ramsey, they weren't shutting people down with their secondary. Ramsey's gone. Ahkello Witherspoon is a good player, but I think that Nico is a top 5 wide receiver in the league, and I think that adding Higgins and Noel and Kirk will take a lot of pressure off of Nico and will open things up for him. So I'm really excited to see those two key matchups in the game, and I think that if anyone really knows the Texans, you know that these core players that we have are going to make the difference in this game. So if the game does come down to a single possession, I have full faith in CJ that he's going to do what he did against the Bengals, against the Buccaneers, and against multiple other teams in his career, which is he's going to find a way to win. And sometimes the game comes down to the kicking game. We're kicking in a dome stadium, which favors Fairbairn a lot. So if we have to make a 50-plus yarder to win the game, I think we can do that as well in this game. So the Texans had 2 major injuries this week. Brevin Jordan out for the season and CJ Gardner-Johnson out for the next month or so. They really haven't given us a definite time frame on his knee injury. Fortunately, he did not tear his ACL, so we will see him back this season. But losing Brevin doesn't really help the Texans, of course. It's going to mean that we're going to rely on Schultz and Cade Stover at tight end. And losing C.J. Gardner-Johnson might be a bigger deal because our secondary against those Rams wide receivers is one of the matchups that you had to like the most going into the game. However, when you really look at it, I don't think that Stingley is going to be able to lock down Devontae all game long. I think he's just too crafty of a veteran. He's going to get open and get his catches at some point in the game. If not him, then Puka. And Puka's play style is going to be very difficult and different from wide receivers that we usually are going up against in our division because he is like a running back with the ball, and he's going to be hard to tackle. So it's going to be really interesting to see how do the injuries factor into this game. Matt Stafford is still not 100% ready to play. So if we do have to play Jimmy G for some reason, then our chances of winning go through the roof. Okay, Matt Stafford is a tremendous difference maker in this game, and injuries are going to be a part of any game. So what I'm hoping for with the Carolina game and our third game in the preseason is just to get out of it without any injuries, go into this game at full strength as much as possible, and get that win in week 1. Get the season started off on a good note and have momentum in the season, because when you go into week 2 on a Monday Night Football game against Tampa, you don't want to be 0-1 in that game. You really want to start the season off 2-0 if possible. And it is possible for this team. They can defeat the Rams on the road and turn around and put on a good show for Monday Night Football, but they are going to have to be very disciplined And it's going to be very important for Nick Caley to show us that he was the right guy for the job, because we know it wasn't going to be Bobby Slowick again. And I'm very grateful for that. I'm really looking forward to this game. Put in the comments below, what do you think is going to happen in this game? Who do you think is going to win? Put your area codes in the chat. Show me your 713s, your 281s. Tell me what part of Texas are you from? What part of the U.S. are you from? Leave a comment, leave a like, and I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Peace out.